Let's kick off. Good day, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Our take two. We hosted this webinar yesterday, and today is our second replica for those of you in different time zones. So this is Arianna from the RSB, and today we are going to present you the RSB CORSIA Standard and give you an overview of the value of the RSB claim on your SAF. And also what is important to note that this webinar is targeted to airlines, to end users, so to you buyers who are ultimately going to use a certified product, a certified SAF, and promote your sustainability or its sustainability credentials to your customers and stakeholders and investors. So the webinar will go into a couple of technical details, but we will follow up in Q2 with a much more detailed webinar that will delve into certification and specific requirements for those of you who are feedstock producers, refineries, and will be looking to achieve the RSB CORSIA accreditation. So the program for today, we are really happy to have to show the perspective of an airline that has been leading in sustainability and SAF development, which is Air France and KLM. We have Constance with us today. We will also talk about RSB and aviation and give you a snapshot of what we are doing in the sector. We're going to talk about the CORSIA Standard, give you a glance overview of the standard and a couple of technical details that are really relevant for you and users. And then ultimately also talk about the type of sustainability claims that you will be able to make by using RSB certified fuel. At the end, we're going to have a Q&A session. You can ask questions throughout the webinar. If you look at your menu, you see a Q&A box. So you can just click on that box and type in your question throughout the webinar. At the end, I'm sure we will have adequate time to answer all your questions, but if not, rest assured that we will follow up with any answers via email. The webinar is recorded, meaning that we will also share the recording with you on top of the slides, and this will be done next week. So with regards to speaker, it's going to be the two of us from the RSB. I'm Arianna. I'm the sector lead for aviation at RSB. So I'm the main point of contact for you aviation companies and airlines who want to engage with the RSB. We have Hannah with us. She's our marketing and comms manager. And then again, a warm welcome to Constance Thion. She's the VP for Sustainability and Compliance of Air France and the KLM Group. And I'll ask Constance to take the floor and tell us more about your perspective on why sustainability is so important for a SAF buyer.
Yes, thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. And thanks so much for having me in your webinar. I'm delighted to open with a very short introduction why SAF sustainability is so important for us and really share our view as an airline, the airline perspective on SAF. So already quite some time ago, we understood that to advance in sustainability, we really have to move together. And very important, very important for us is that we connected already several years ago to the Global Compact, and our country, and we linked to the SDGs, the UN SDGs, and also very important for us that we now really incorporated sustainability in our corporate strategy. So everybody knows that a few decades ago, CSR was really more a nice to have and not so much a need to have. We made completely this switch in Air France-KLM, and we said really sustainability is a key part of our corporate strategy. and certainly our commitment to the environment. But coming back to the UN SDGs, of course, this is not only on environment, it's also about equality, it's about healthy growth, land usage, etc. Environment. And what we say all the time with everything that we do, how does it connect to the UN SDGs? And how does it improve the different, one of the 17 SDGs and not negatively affect one of the others? So the first thing really why it's so important to be sustainable on SAF is that we want to ensure that it contributes to these common goals that we have together, not only for Air France-KLM, but for aviation and for the whole world in general. So I don't think I have to explain to this audience why SAF is so important for us in general. It's really a key solution in our decarbonization strategy, and to reach our long-term ambition, we need SAF, but we want to do it the right way. And we know that there are very different ways and very different technologies to get SAF, especially, of course, the feedstock part is extremely important to understand how it is sourced. So it's quite a challenge to evaluate if it's truly the right way. So therefore, one of the reasons why RSB is so important for us, I think there is a knowledge there that we don't have, certain expertise to follow the whole process. And this also gives transparency and traceability of the supply chain, the value chain of this SAF production, which is so necessary because us as end users, we can be challenged on that in one way or another. And this is not wrong. We just want to be ready, that we always know where it comes from, and that we always have a credible answer, a transparent answer. And that's why I think that's what RSB can provide us. RSB is an independent assessment, so very important. Again, we rely on a diversity of expertise. We don't know everything ourselves. We know quite a lot about it, but we're certainly not the experts. So we think it's very important to have a diversity of expertise to really evaluate this whole supply chain. SAF is extremely expensive. We all know that. It's now 3 to 8 times more than fossil fuel. So we spend relatively a lot of money on SAF, and we would like to spend it on what really matters, what really helps to reduce our climate impact. And last but not least, we strongly support sustainability standards for the sector, and therefore are delighted to hear, of course, that RSB is now linked to ICAO, because, well, only together we can really bring sustainable aviation closer. So that's a short introduction from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Constance. It's really great to hear the commitment from airlines, not only to SAF and decarbonization, but also to sustainability. And you raised 2 points that I will address throughout the presentation in different parts. But one of it is the knowledge and the fact that sustainability is an ever-changing, complex context that really requires continuous discussions, also with regards to new feedstocks coming on board and new challenges. So really at RSB, one of the roles we want to play is to provide a platform where this type of discussions can take place in a matter that is balanced, so that we can include both industry and civil societies and NGOs. So that is very important for us. And the second point is the point of being challenged as an airline, you're a brand. Ultimately, airlines are brands that are offering a product to consumers and are the face of the market. So Also, one of the value that the RSB hopes to bring to airlines is to support you in communicating sustainability, again, communicating these challenges, and making sure that that you can really be recognized for your commitment and de-risk really your work overall. But thank you very much, really, Constance. So we'll go ahead with the program. I'll give you just a few slides to give you an introduction to RSB and aviation sector. Many of you today are already familiar with the RSB, but I wanted to just stress a couple of points. First of all, RSB is not just only a certification. We consider ourselves as a mission-driven organization with the aim to collaborate and support industry and stakeholders in this just transition to a net positive world. That is really the overall mandate that the global community has nowadays to fight climate change and ensure the protection of environment and human rights. So here you can see some of the key sustainability values or tenets that support our work, and all of these values really reflect also in what we can bring to the brands that we work with and the stakeholders that we work with. Next slide. Brief snapshot of the RSB scope. So we work not only in aviation, although aviation is a key sector for us, working in sustainable aviation fuels, but we also work in other biofuel sectors, so ground transport, shipping fuels, bioenergy as well, and also in the material sector. So looking at chemicals and polymers, as well as the growing sector of textile and fibers. We work with both bio-based feedstocks, recycled carbon feedstocks, and soon also we are going to be working more and more also with power to X and green hydrogen. There will be time to discuss about that later in the year. And here again, I want to stress we are not just only a certification. Of course, we are here today. We are talking about our ICAO CORSIA Standard, so the certification for CORSIA-eligible fuels. And many of you know we are also accredited under EU RED. We already submitted our EU RED 2 standard. But we also work with the sector through providing technical advice, research, and developing partnerships and collaborations across the globe. In this slide, which we are always very proud of showing, is you can see the global spread of the RSB and also the different type of work that we do. I wanted to note some important partners of the RSB in the aviation sector, or in working with aviation and SAF development. Boeing and Climate Works Foundation, for example, have been working with us to support the development of SAF research, feedstock research, supply research, stakeholder engagement in a number of regions, including Latin America, Africa, and Asia, where we are also focusing on developing SAF roadmaps. We also are involved in a number of Horizon 2020 projects in the European Union, many of them looking at greening the aviation sector on different levels. And our role there is really to promote the sustainability narrative and the embedding of sustainability requirements in SAF developments. Last but not least, our work with the World Economic Forum. They have an initiative called Clean Skies for Tomorrow. Some of you today, I think, are members also of this initiative. We've been advising the coalition with sustainability advice, and we also hope to soon be able to work with the World Economic Forum on certifying the SAF credit system that they are setting up. So going into the RSB CORSIA scheme, So first of all, I'm sure I'm here, I'm talking to already experts of CORSIA, but I thought just to set the context, to give a really brief introduction of what CORSIA is. So the carbon offsetting and reduction scheme for international aviation, managed or led by ICAO. It is really an initiative or a regulation to that is driving the decarbonization of the aviation sector. Two core mechanisms included in the CORSIA policy are sustainable aviation fuels and carbon offsets. But it's very well known that sustainable aviation fuels are really the key strategy for significant decarbonization in the long term. So it is a very important component of CORSIA. So why CORSIA is really topical today is, of course, because it's 2021 is the kickoff of the pilot phase, the voluntary pilot phase for CORSIA, to which many countries have already joined. And we know that the CORSIA will progressively become mandatory for different countries for international flights. So this slide is to show how RSB is not new to CORSIA or to ICAO. We've been engaged in the ICAO processes for nearly 5 years. We've been involved in the Alternative Fuel Task Force since 2016 and been engaging in a number of roundtables and discussions around CORSIA requirements. And of course, our point of view and our mission is to make sure that there is adequate sustainability integrated into CORSIA requirements. We developed our standards also in close consultation with our members, which we submitted to CORSIA in April 2020. And we are very, very happy to have announced in December that the RSB CORSIA Standard was accredited by ICAO to certify CORSIA-eligible SAF. And RSB is one of the 2 certifications that was accredited. So what's next? We are focusing on the training auditors and making sure that the standard and the requirements are streamlined within our certification system. So we look forward to speaking to supply chain, to start speaking also today to supply chain companies to start working on CORSIA certification as of March 2021. So the CORSIA standard at a glance, and again, we're going to have a much more detailed explanation of the CORSIA standard requirements and certification at a later stage. But here I wanted to give you an idea of what our RSB CORSIA standard includes, and especially with regards to sustainability. So first of all, our standard covers CORSIA-eligible SAF, so we do not certify the so-called LCAF, so low carbon aviation fuels that are entirely fossil fuels based. We apply our 12 RSB principles, so our comprehensive sustainability approach to our CORSIA standard, and I'll have a few slides later to explain this approach in a little more detail. We also include end-of-life products and processing residues, and our standard already caters for certain fit-specific requirements related to certain wastes and residues that are linked to their specific sustainability risks. Also, and very importantly, we require the SAF that is RSB CORSIA certified to achieve at least 50% greenhouse gas emission reduction on the core LCA. This is very important for us in order to make sure that we keep in line with our mission for significant decarbonization. And I'll go into some more detail on explaining this approach and the CORSIA methodology in the next slides. The greenhouse gas calculation also integrates the CORSIA ILOC values, which I'll explain in a little while. And we also recognize landfill and recycling emission credits for the biogenic part of municipal solid waste. So moving on to sustainability requirements. So here you can see an overview of the RSB 12 principles and criteria. This is really the lens through which we see the work we do. Often in aviation and also in other bioeconomy sector, there is a misbelief that environmental risks and impacts is really just greenhouse gas emissions, and that if you achieve greenhouse gas emission reduction, you achieved sustainability. So it's important to note that obviously greenhouse gas emission reduction is very important, and it's a very important component of the fight with climate change. But sustainability is a much more complex and comprehensive context. So our principles and criteria are known to be very, very comprehensive and include both social issues such as human and labor rights, rural and social developments, and local food security that are applied to regions of poverty, but also to look at the wider spectrum of the environment. So looking also at conservation, soil quality, the use of water, etc. So all across RSB standards, we require that our principles and criteria are addressed all along the supply chain, from feedstock production to industrial processing. So it's very important for the RSB to ensure that our standard is robust and credible. And this credibility obviously translates into incredible value for final brands, because ultimately you also want to have a claim that is credible to the market and that can come under scrutiny from environmental and social NGOs. So this is a snapshot on how we ensure credibility within the RSB. First of all, it's very important for us to involve stakeholders in our standard development and in our assurance system. I will show later a slide showing who our members are, but it's very important for us to ensure that there is not only industry involved in our membership, but also social and environmental NGOs, in order to not only offer a standard to the market that is credible, but also that is practical to use in real life. We also comply and are a member of the ICAO Alliance. ICAO is an umbrella organization for credible sustainability standard, and they provide guidance and procedures that we use in order to that we follow in order to make sure that our standards are developed according to best practice. We also use a third-party certification, so independent accreditation bodies and certification bodies, and also it's we are always really excited to see that RSB always performs very well during standard benchmarks. Last but not least is our risk-based approach. So it's important to note that the RSB doesn't promote arbitrary performance or sustainability targets. We work on a risk-based approach on certification, meaning that our certification is focused on the specific sustainability risk of that supply chain and that geographical location. And this really makes the entire certification much more efficient and really focused on what is needed. In this slide, we highlight some of the latest recognition that the RSB has received from relevant NGOs, environmental NGOs, or environmental coalitions that are influential in the aviation sector. First and foremost, WWF, who has been a long-term partner of the RSB, also very closely involved in the development of our standard, and a partner in a number of SAF initiatives. Also important to note ICSA, International Coalition for Sustainable Aviation, which endorses RSB as the best-in-class sustainability certification standard, and of course ATAC and RDC and IUCN. What is important to note here is that, again, sustainability claims, you very well know, sustainability claims are going to be challenged by the market. There is always a fear of greenwashing or overselling sustainability. So internally, we want to make sure that our standard is robust and that we are able to face that challenge and face that scrutiny. And so that's why we involve the NGO and the civil society sector as much as possible to ensure that the standard is robust. And then at the same time, we hope this reflects also on the value that the RSB can provide to final brands. So with regards to greenhouse gas requirements, here we go into a little bit of technical information. I'm sure all of you are not new to this concept. I wanted to quickly talk about the ILUC, so induced land use change. And this is because this is a very important component of the CORSIA greenhouse gas methodology. So it is assumed that with the growth in the demand for bio-based fuels, there will be increased pressure on land use, whether to clear more land, to develop energy crops, or to displace food production elsewhere in order to replace it with energy crop. All of these, and I'm really simplifying it, but all of these can be summarized with the word induced land use change. It is a buzzword that and an important topic that is being increasingly discussed by regulators. And CORSIA is the first system that has really developed a methodology and a way to actually quantify with a number what the risk of ILUC is for each pathway and crop. And here on the right, you can see the CORSIA default life cycle emission values for CORSIA-eligible fuels. And you can also see the value, the ILUC value that was estimated for each feedstock and pathway, and more will come with the time. So we integrate this value, obviously, in the RSB CORSIA Standard, as is required by CORSIA. So the CORSIA requirement for greenhouse gas emission reduction is that the greenhouse gas life cycle assessment of the SAF product, including the ILUC value, must achieve at least 10% greenhouse gas emission reduction compared to the fossil baseline that CORSIA provides. Just a note that, again, LCA means that the emissions or the greenhouse gas emissions of the supply chain right from the feedstock is planted or cultivated and harvested and transported, processed, refined, etc., all along the supply chain until it's a final SAF product and delivered to the airport. So the RSB CORSIA requirement, and again, in line with our mission to achieve a net positive future and for aviation to really achieve the targets that CORSIA has set and that many airlines have set, we require that the greenhouse gas LCA achieves at least 50% greenhouse gas emission reduction on, again, the core LCA. This is very important. And then when adding the ILUC value, we align with the CORSIA requirement of minimum 10%. Just to give you an example to really demonstrate these, here we provide two options for a SAF made via alcohol-to-jet process using Brazilian sugarcane ethanol. We have option 1 and option 2, where the only values that differs is the core LCA, with option 2 having a much more intense greenhouse gas impact along the supply chain. We added the CORSIA ILUC value provided by ICAO and we achieve the total greenhouse gas intensity of the SAF. When comparing it to the CORSIA baseline, we reach a new result, which is the total saving. And here we use these numbers to calculate the percentage greenhouse gas reduction. And here you can see how option 1 achieves at least a 70% reduction on the LCA and 60 when including ILUC, which makes this a SAF option eligible for both CORSIA and RSB certification, whereas the second option is just 1% short to achieving the RSB CORSIA ambition of 50%. And so this SAF would still be CORSIA eligible and and can be certified as a CORSIA eligible fuel, but we wouldn't be able to provide an additional RSB claim to this SAF. To make things a little simpler, RSB has developed a greenhouse gas calculator. This is an Excel-based calculator that is available to our participating operators and members, but also to the wider sector, and already embeds the CORSIA ILUC values as well as other default values available in the sector. And you can calculate the carbon intensity all along your supply chain, and then calculate the results on the three main methodology, which is CORSIA, EU Red, and the RSB Global. So brief overview of RSB certified SAF. So Global SAF Production Initiative, this is an overview of how much SAF is current in production and also how much planned production there is for the next 5 years. Obviously, it's important to note that refineries or SAF initiatives usually integrate SAF and renewable diesel and often also renewable naphtha production. And the decision to produce more diesel or more SAF is obviously dictated by offtakes and market demand and incentives and a number of other drivers. So, but it's important to see here how the capacity to produce renewable fuels is going to grow significantly in the next 5 years. And hopefully a great part of these volumes will be dedicated to the SAF market. With regards to our RSB SAF ecosystem, we are working with all the leading SAF initiatives to support them in embedding sustainability requirements in their supply chain and to achieve RSB certification. We are also working, I mentioned earlier, in several EU H2020 projects that are looking at scaling production in Europe and also developing top-up audit approaches for SAF traders and distributors. These approaches are particularly important for airlines and end users, because in order to have an RSB claim on the final product, on the SAF you're purchasing, the entire supply chain needs to be RSB certified. So this means that the RSB certification is applied to the farms, the point of origins, the industrial operators, and the traders. We know that the RSB is not the only ICAO accredited certification, so there will be instances, especially in the first years, where supply chain have a mix of ICAO accredited certifications. And this allows you as a final user, as an airline, to claim your SAF under the CORSIA regulation. But unfortunately, you won't have the additional RSB claims, the additional sustainability claims and support that the RSB can provide. So it is very important also for airlines to demand that the SAF is fully RSB certified, to ensure that we can really work with you and support you in promoting sustainability with your stakeholders. This is a snapshot of the airlines that have a public preference for RSB certified SAF. This information is in the public domain, was taken from the NRDC report. And it's really exciting for us to see that there is a growing number of airlines that are really understanding the value of a true sustainability claim on their product. So I'll ask, now I'll hand over to Hannah, our marketing and comms manager, who will tell you more about the type of claims you can do through the RSB and how we can support the airlines. Hannah.
Thanks, Arianna. Great presentation so far. So good morning, everyone. It's great to be speaking to you today. As Arianna mentioned, I am Hannah Walker. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager here at RSB. This morning, I want to give you a quick overview of how RSB supports airlines to make powerful claims about those sustainability commitments that Arianna's mentioned previously. And we'll be discussing both the claims themselves and then how we can support you to communicate your commitment to your stakeholders and consumers. RSB is able to provide support both to airline members and then also to those committed to sourcing RSB certified SAF to communicate sustainability commitments. So that goes from helping you to frame your sustainability commitments grounded in our 12 principles and criteria that Arianna showed you earlier, and to effectively communicate those sustainability goals, as well as to provide credibility around your claims. You've already seen the really wide spread of support that RSB has from leading NGOs, and then also actions on the concrete claims enabled by your commitment to RSB certified SAF, which I'll show you on the next slide. So as you can see, RSB's approach means that airline SAF buyers and indeed those further upstream can make really bold, concrete claims that go far beyond those enabled by CORSIA alone. These claims are grounded in those 12 principles that you saw earlier, and they cover things like greenhouse gas emission reductions, but also deforestation, human and labor rights, food security, and a lot more. All of that is supported by those NGO studies that consistently rank RSB as the most credible and trusted sustainability standard in this field. And getting into specific supply chain claims, you will of course be able to make SAF specific claims on things like your actual greenhouse gas reduction and the supply chain specific impacts linked to the RSB 12 principles. So RSB's label means a lot more than just a license to trade. It means real sustainability and going beyond the minimum and doing no harm. And actually creating positive impacts. Certification to the standard enables you to use the RSB label. And as I've mentioned, that really means real and measurable impacts on greenhouse gas emissions, as well as social and environmental protection. Okay, so while RSB's label is not yet broadly known in the consumer market, I just wanted to quickly show you some research carried out by a partner in another sector, that's packaging, consumer packaging. And that research really indicated its power and its potential, with a broad majority finding it improved brand perception and also created a positive brand impact and increased purchase intentions. Obviously, this is a different area, but we would, looking to the aviation sector, be very open to supporting our partners to do further research on this. Okay, so where can we support you with communicating your commitment? I'm going to give you a few examples shortly, but broadly, we have sort of 3 areas. One is in your corporate reporting and reporting progress against your goals, internal or external. Your commitment to and particularly use of RSB certified fuel is tied to concrete metrics of our sustainability principles and can add credibility to your reporting. On the consumer communication side, RSB can assist with clear messaging and distilling some of the complex sustainability concepts into really simple claims that are effective with consumers and passengers. And then finally, we are also able to provide support on your overall sustainability messaging by helping you to set goals and purchase intentions based on the tried and tested RSB approach. So now I'm going to show you a couple of examples. So with New Seeds, who are an RSB certified producer of carinata seed for SAF and biodiesel, We partner to develop communication materials that distill their commitment to real sustainability into really simple, user-friendly terms. In this case, co-branded and jointly developed animation. And this is a really short, simple, easy way that they can then use to tell their stakeholders, their supply chain, and also ultimately their customers about their commitment to RSB. With Inos Styrolution, who are a certified operator, they're a chemical producer in Northern Europe. We supported the communication of some really complex sustainability topics in their corporate communications. This helped to ensure upstream suppliers and other stakeholders were able to buy into that sustainability commitment. With Target, who are a flooring producer in Northern Europe and also RSB certified, we helped to add value to their consumer outreach by supporting them to develop consumer-friendly claims in their direct sales material. And then finally, we also have our own materials that can support your corporate communications and reporting. So we have these existing materials which are available at the moment in English and Chinese, but they can also be translated into multiple languages. We can also work with you to develop specific tools and reports to advance your sustainability commitments. To sum up, we're able to help you with a range of both really powerful claims and then also the tools to help you communicate them. And all of this should help you to advance your commitment to sustainability. So back to Arianna.
Thank you, Hannah. So we reached our conclusion, and really the last few message or call to action that we have is first of all, get in touch. We'd love to support you on your sustainable SAF journey, to support you understanding the RSB standard and integrating in your operation. And as Hannah was said, for members and participating operators to also support you in communicating this commitment to your network. For those of you who are not yet RSB members, there's a few of you out there. We really invite you to consider RSB membership. We will follow up with information about that. But really, RSB membership allows you to participate in topical webinars and technical working groups on sustainability, profile your SAF initiatives across our network, and obviously also to have a brand alignment and demonstrate your commitment to sustainability and access all of these day-to-day support that we can provide you in communicating sustainability to your sector. And then finally, a snapshot of an overview of the RSB member community. And I want to take the chance to thank our members for the support that you are providing to the RSB, or you have been providing to the RSB throughout the year. You can see quite a few names or brands from the aviation sector, including airlines or producers or NGOs. And also, it's really great to see that there are so many organizations in the world that are really committed to sustainability, and we really hope to grow this community and to work together closer in the future. So thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions, again, please pop them in the Q&A box. Yes. We are ready for any questions for me, Hannah, or also Constance.
Thanks, Arianna. We've got a couple of questions already, so I'm going to kick off with those.
Okay, great.
I think this one has a bit of a hot button issue. How does RSB guarantee food security?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and a very topical question for airlines. We know, we are very well aware of the of often the emotional response that consumers have and the kind of the general public has when talking about food crops or talking about palm oil. We are very well aware of that and discuss it regularly with our network. And with regards to food security, we know that food security is one of the key risks when talking about biofuel production. we cover food security in our Principle 6. And as with all our other principles, we take a risk approach, a risk management approach. This means that the first step when approaching food security is to understand, is the feedstock grown in a food, well, first of all, is the feedstock a crop or a waste? Because this is always the first important question. Is the feedstock a crop that is grown in a food insecure region? And in order to understand or identify what a food insecure region are, we use a global reputable databases like the Global Hunger Index. And we highlight which countries, for example, are at risk, at a higher risk of food security. If your country is at risk of food security, then RSB requires the application of our Principle 6. And this includes the assessment of the food security issue, the engagement of stakeholders via consultation, including producers, communities, relevant government officials and NGOs, and the development of an evidence-based plan that looks at, or that supports the projects to ensure that it doesn't impact the local food security. So this is overall our approach. Obviously, it is detailed depending on the country and the crop and the area. But overall, in brief, we have a risk management approach, and we ensure that food security is taken seriously when supply chains are pass through a country that is at a high food security risk.
Thanks, Arianna. Very comprehensive answer. I have another question. It's one that came up yesterday as well. What is RSB's approach to ILUC? Indirect land use change or induced land use change?
Sure. So as I said earlier, ICAO so far is the only regulators that has quantified the ILUC risk in an actual value that is integrated in the calculation. RSB has been working on ILUC for a number of years. We have developed together with our members, we develop a voluntary module that can be added to existing certificates, and that provides a number or set of indicators that producers can use and supply chain can use to demonstrate a low ILUC risk for their feedstock or their product. So this is not a quantified result, but it's rather a claim, a qualitative claim that can be made when providing evidence on a number of indicators, including if your feedstock is a waste or a residues, or whether the feedstock volume was created through yield increases rather than by integrating best practices in agriculture rather than clearing more land. So this is just an example, and this module is available and can be used already, and it's a qualitative claim that can be added to your existing RSB claim.
Thanks, Arianna. A couple more questions coming in. So the first one is, can RSB or an auditor certify just CORSIA-eligible fuel for below 50% of the LCA? We understand airlines can use CORSIA-eligible fuel and submit that use to ICAO for CO2 offsetting.
Mm-hmm. So this is a very good question, and this is something that we are discussing with ICAO at the moment. In other words, the possibility for us to certify a CORSIA-eligible fuel that only meets the basic CORSIA requirements without meeting the additional RSB requirements. So this is an ongoing discussion with ICAO. We will have a plan forward very soon. But what is certain here is that if a situation arises that we will certify, or our certification bodies certify CORSIA eligible fuels only against the ICAO requirements, and also achieving below 50% greenhouse gas LCA, then the final SAF will not carry the RSB, the additional RSB claim and the value that this claim provides with regards to food security, deforestation, human rights, etc.
Thanks, Arianna. Sorry,
this will be clarified in more detail during our upcoming webinar in Q2, where we will go into much more detail about the standard application and requirements for those companies who are actually going to seek certification.
Thanks, Arianna. Another question has come in, and I know that this is right up your alley. Can we talk a little bit more about RSB's views on Power-to-X?
Sure. So thank you for asking this question. I find the Power-to-X is one of these issues that is always coming up lately in SAF discussion. So we already cover Power-to-X pathways, like, for example, green hydrogen or use of green electricity in the supply chain via our RSB standard for advanced fuels. This is a standard that is part of our RSB global standard, so is not yet linked or recognized by regulators like EU RED and CORSIA. But we already have an approach on certifying Power-to-X. That said, we also understand that this sector is also fast evolving. There are new technologies being piloted. There's a lot more that we as experts in kind of bio-based and advanced fuels need to learn. So as part of our plan for this year, we are looking at creating an informal group that can provide advice to the RSB on what would be the key sustainability risks on the main Power-to-X or green hydrogen technologies, and in order for us to understand how Power-to-X is covered by the RSB standard, and whether there is the need for RSB to do some work at a later stage to include some feedstock or technology specific requirements. But in the second half of the year, we're going to focus on Power-to-X and green hydrogen. So Martin, I'll definitely be in touch with you around that.
Thanks so much, Arianna. With that, I think we have reached the end of the questions, and we will now wrap everything up. Is there anything you wanted to add, Arianna, before we say goodbye?
So I just wanted to thank again all the speakers. Thank you, Hannah, for supporting me. Thank you, Constance. It was great to have you on board, and it's really having an airline to speak about the value of sustainability adds a lot of value to this type of discussion. So thank you very much for providing your time, and I look forward to talking with all of you offline. And thank you very much for attending the webinar today.
Thank you, Arianna. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.